Good evening, everyone. Nice to see you all. Can you hear me? I see some waves. That's great. Well, welcome to this gorgeous autumn equinox day. What a great time of year. It's been so nice to actually open the windows at night and feel a little chill in the air. I just want to say a quick welcome to anybody joining us for the first time. I think there might even be a high school student or two with us, so welcome. Great to see you. This has been very interesting the last 2 weeks. Since I can't, as we say, read the room, and there aren't any verbal or visual cues to pick up or hear laughter, and all of you are these little tiny ants on my screen, your feedback is incredibly helpful, and I want to thank you all. I know that many of you have been in touch with board members and offered feedback, which is I hope will prove helpful moving forward. I just wanted to clarify a few things. We've been doing a lot of vocal technical work, and perhaps more than some are used to. And, one of the things that I've mentioned is that we have the gift of time here. We're not preparing a concert. We're looking at some music, but there's no pressure to get the notes right yet. We're far off from any concert time. So we have the luxury of working on some vocal techniques. So I see this first half hour as essentially almost like a mini voice lesson, not warm-ups as much as a voice lesson, and trying to work on cultivating some strong vocal foundations that when we're back together in person, we'll have a sort of common language and a toolbox that we can reference. This is all in service of becoming better singers, not always necessarily in service of one piece of music, but in service of your instrument and the way that we can work together when that glorious day arrives, when we can actually, I can read visual and verbal cues and see your faces and know if you have looks of confusion or elation, and hear laughter and all those great things that we're missing as human beings right now. So in the meantime, I'll have to trust your feedback and your tiny little faces that I see there, and trust they are smiles, even with my eyes that I'm realizing are getting worse and worse, I think, from staring at a screen. So, having said that, step away from your screen, adjust your video camera, and let's wake up with a physical warm-up and begin our work vocally. So, let me adjust mine as well. Great. Breathe in with me, and out, and in again, stretch up as high as you can, and out. Great. Stop your hands here, bring them up like this, like strongman. Release your arms so that your hands are this way. Let me fix my screen a little bit. Good. You're up this way. Feel the way your rib cage is expanded. Your chest is proud. Your shoulders are back and heavy. And I want you to just slowly go side by side, side to side, rotate. And as you rotate, make sure you're breathing. Just a few more. Great. Come back to this spot. And then you're going to reach up again. Bring your arms down slowly, and then just let them drop. And your chest is still proud, your shoulders heavy. And you feel that expansion in your rib cage. Good. Everybody breathe in again, and go. Now I'm going to conduct you so we can try to stay together, but I don't expect you to conduct. In fact, what I'd like you to do is have your hand here so you're feeling the expansion in the rib cage. Ready? I'll count you off. I'm going to give 2, 3, 4, and then ready? 2, 3, and breathe. Sustain. Everybody go, yeah! As low as you can. Remember to keep your body in motion. Your whole body is the instrument. Breathe in again. And this time as you sing, you're going to go, woo! One hand goes down, the other is up. We have this sense of a stretch. Breathe in and woo! Great. Left ear to left shoulder. Press down with the right. Feel that stretch. We breathe in. Out on an F. Great. And look at that shoulder. Breathe in. And out on an S. And we go right ear to right shoulder. Press down with the left. Breathe in. Release the air. Any tension of the day out on an S. And look at that shoulder. Breathe in. Focus on the expansion and out. And back to the center. Clasp your hands behind your head. Let the weight of your arms bring down and breathe in. Feel the stretch. Good. And shake everything out. Just sort of trot in place. Wake yourself up. Good. Good to see some of you moving around. Good. And stop. Shoulder roll back. And then bend your knees. Shoulder roll back and bend your knees. Shoulder roll back, bend your knees. Shoulder roll back and bend your knees. Good, shake it one more time. Now if we were in person, there's this great exercise I do with high school and college kids, and it works really well on adults. So you can't see everything because there's legs involved in this. But what you're going to do is you're going to shake one arm. We do arm, arm, you can't see it, but leg, leg, and then shimmy. And you're going to do each of those 8 times. So you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 1, 2, etc. through the whole sequence of arm, arm, leg, leg, shimmy, or bum, whatever you want to call it. And then we'll go down to do 6. I'll call out the number, and it's a great way to get you moving. So try it with me. Here we are. We're going to start. I'm starting with the right arm, whichever you please. 8 of them. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Left leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shimmy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Shimmy. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 1, 1, and go. Great. And now, you might feel silly in your living room doing this, as I do right now, but I promise you if we were all together, laughter happens, and it's quite fun as you look at everybody else being as silly as you are. And there's always there's a great galvanizing camaraderie that happens when we're silly together. And I think that's part of the point of a community chorus. So, everybody, once again, breathe in nice and low, and you're going to do a big lip trill. Great. You're going to warm up your articulators, your teeth, your lips, teeth, and tip of the tongue. Say that once. Say lips, teeth, tip of the tongue. And lips, teeth, tip of the tongue. 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 Good. Great. I'm going to sit. You stay standing. We'll start on our lip trill. And all I'm going to do. And breathe. Remember, let me back up. Remember we talked about last week. The breath on a lip trill is through the nose so that we don't lose air when we start our lip trill. So it's not, but, and breathe. Great. Remind yourself that posture is an activity. I want you to think proud chest, heavy shoulders, wide rib cage. Place your hand here once. Breathe in through your nose. Make sure that you're not heaving at all, but everything. You can place the other hand here so you feel that expansion underneath your lower rib. And breathe. Now place one hand here. Remember our single nose breath, and place a hand underneath the rib cage and feel that expansion. Breathe in once. And out on an S. Let it all out. Great. Now we do that. Breathe in through the one nostril and we do the lip trill. Now, gentlemen, as we get higher in this, especially basses and tenors as well, allow your voice to go into falsetto so that I'm not, for example, when I sing this, and I'm going, and I'm not trying to force it up there. I go into falsetto. Lighten up. Falsetto is a great thing, gents. You have to have that for singers. Tenors especially. There are so many times you're going to be up in F, G, A flat, that you're just going to want to float it all the time. And even basses. There'll be times when you're on D, E flat, and E, where you're going to want to join the sound of the tenors, and you have to do that in your head voice versus your chest voice. So let's continue with this exercise and make sure as we go into the head upper voice, basses and tenors, don't be afraid to go into your falsetto or head voice. And breathe. One more. Actually, sopranos, go on. There we go. Great. And I'm trying to scroll through the pictures tonight of you all so I can catch those of you that aren't moving as you sing. Remember, your whole body is your instrument. You need to be dancing in your living room as we sing. Don't get stuck doing note singing, but whole body singing. Let's sing. You're going to say ming, 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 ah. Say that once. Ming, 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 ah. Remember last week we talked about that NG. So the tip of the tongue is down. The back of your tongue is up and it touches the top of the back part of the roof of your mouth, which is called the soft palate. So if these are my teeth, here's my soft palate, here's my tongue. My mouth is open. Try that. So you're going to do ming, 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 ah, and breathe. Ming, 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 ah. Ming, 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 ah. Ming, 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 ah. Ming, 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 ming. Now I'm going to keep playing because I can't sing that low, or maybe I'll sing up in the alto range. But basses and altos, don't be afraid to linger into your chest voice. In fact, you can put your hand up here and feel the resonance on your chest voice. Everybody, as you're singing, also make sure that your inhalation is a quiet inhalation. Slow, low, and quiet are the things to remember. Slow, low, and quiet for inhalation. And breathe. Ming, 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 ah. 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 One last one. Ming, 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 ah. Now, if we were all together, one of the things you would hear me say is, you might get tired of it too, is that final notes, whether they're in a vocalese, they're in an actual phrase, a piece of music, but final notes are opportunities. They're opportunities to listen, they're opportunities to tune, they're opportunities to refresh and improve the vowel and the color of sound. And I say that because human nature is, you get to the end of the exercise and it's, oh, I'm done. So we go, ming, 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 ah, and we sort of, oh. Instead, that last note needs to feel as though it's traveling. It needs to be a sense of something else is coming next. So, ming, 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 ah. You're listening, you're thinking about how that sound can be better. So as we move forward today, think with that in mind. Let's do 2 more exercises. I want to go, let's go back to our ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. In fact, everybody say that once. Go, ooh, yeah. Say that. Ooh, yeah. As a way of reminder that the lips don't move too much. We don't want ooh, yeah, but ooh, yeah. So we keep everything through this sort of funnel of sound. It's never going megaphone-wise, more funnel. Ooh, yeah. So we try that. And you're going to breathe in the ooh vowel, a quiet, low, and slow breath. And ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Now I want all of you to think vertically. Ooh. So you're going to actually bend at the knees at the top part of the voice. Ooh, ooh. So there's this feeling of up and down at the same time. So in the back, where that soft palate is, there's lots of space, like you're yawning. Here we go. Ooh. Sure, we've all heard the talk about singing like Julia Child. So, ooh, yeah, we sing. Ready? And breathe. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. One more. Ooh, yeah, ooh, yeah. Now, we're going to change the order of the vowels. So, instead of ooh, yeah, ah, we'll do ooh, yeah, ah, you, ah, you, ah, you, and breathe. Ah, you, ah, you. Last one, I can't sing this low on your own. Breathe. Good. Here we go. Loosen up that tongue. Good. So, we're going to try an exercise here that is about, there's this word in Italian, portamento. Say it together. Portamento. It essentially means glide or slide. Now, this may seem counterintuitive to a choral singer mindset where the goal is always to be as precise as possible. And I love to use the story, if you know the fantastic soprano Joan Sutherland, who was in her prime in the 60s and 70s and 80s even. As she got older, she sang just as beautifully, but you would hear a little bit of sliding in between pitches. You hear that now with someone like a Renee Fleming or a Dawn Upshaw. She was always sliding in between pitches. We just didn't hear it. What happens is that's technique that is concealed, essentially. And what the sliding is creating a true legato. Now, I know as choral singers, we're sort of, at birth, we're taught to approach every pitch absolutely clearly as possible. And yes, that is what we want to hear. That is the result. But the action often is different than the result. So we're going to do an exercise here which essentially is working the legato connection. And you're allowed to slide. Enjoy this. It may sound sloppy and messy and relish in that sort of luxuriating sound. So you're going to sing ah. And when you get down to that last note, you can just relax into your chest voice. So you're starting in the middle of the scale on the fifth, on the dominant, if that makes sense, with the fifth note of the scale, or sol do sol do sol do sol mi sol do. Bring all on ah vowel and breathe on the ah. And I want you to, as you sing, sort of, you can almost get seasick. Imagine your arms, if you're in a pool, think of that natural resistance that water provides. That's what a real legato feels like. We don't want but We're going to do that, and then we're going to modify that and make it staccato. But we're going to start legato. So, one, and breathe. Like you're in a pool of water. I see many of you moving, but not everybody. Those of you who are moving, you're awesome. And breathe. Feel the sound is connected. Breathe. I'm going to stop singing. You're on your own now. Breathe. And breathe. Breathe. Sopranos alone. I want you to, this time, you're going to start on an O. You're going to go, oh, and breathe. One more sopranos and breathe. Good. And sopranos, if I were with you right now, I would probably tell you to repeat after me and say, I am a soprano and I love high notes. So just say it right now. It's your mantra. I am a soprano and I love high notes. Yes, and I see somebody's arms in the ears like that. That's great. Excellent. So let's do a little staccato and then we'll be done. And all you're going to do is a 5-note scale down. And now the idea of a staccato, it used all that energy, vibrancy, vocal technique that you had and intensity on the legato. You're taking that intensity and you're just focusing it on a pinpoint. So you're going to sing, first say E, A, A, O, U. Say that. E, A, A, O, U. So what you're going to sing is E, A, A, O, U. Ready and breathe. E, A, A, O, U. Now, what I want to make sure that you do is that staccato doesn't mean that we breathe in between each one. So I don't want E, A, A. So no shoulders, no breaths in between. E, A, A, O, U. And breathe. E, A, A, O, U. Relax the jaw. E, A, A, O, U. 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 And one last one. E, A, A, O, U. Great. Everybody ready, do a big yawn sigh. Woo! Good. Let's jump on to what I wanted. The way I'd like to handle this evening is we're going to do a little bit of work on "We Shall Walk Through the Valley in Peace," and then a little bit on "My Spirit Sang All Day." We'll take a short break for some announcement that needs to be made, and then your dear alto section leader, Penny Lazarus, is going to give us a little presentation on what was happening in art and politics and culture during the time of the composition of the Gabriel Fauré Requiem. You may or may not know that Penny has done a lot of study, and I believe, and she will correct me, has either a master's or a PhD in art history, in addition to all her work as a pianist and piano instructor. So I'm thrilled that Penny is going to give us this little education on art and culture during the time of the composition of the Fauré Requiem. So let's take a look at the Undine Smith-Moore piece, "We Shall Walk Through the Valley in Peace." I'm hoping that this is the last week that I'll have to put the score up on screen share it. I'm hoping that that we will all have music by then, but I will go ahead and do the screen share right now. Going slowly all the way through to, where is it? Oh, here we are. To measure 20. And that's not the right spot. Here we are, measure 23. So, let's do this. And this is obviously a strange exercise in that I have no idea what you all sound like. So, just know that in my mind, you sound amazing and you're doing a great job. So, let's start with the basses. And what I want to do, though, is I'm going to play the top 3 entrances basses so you get used to hearing that and know how to get your pitch on the entrance. So I'm going to go, I'm going to give 3, 4, 1, soprano, alto, tenor, bass. Remember, we lift here. We shall walk in peace. Let's do the same thing now for the tenors. So tenors, I'm actually just going to play the alto entrance. So I'll start on measure 2 tenors, and you come in on measure 3 on ah. Tenor. Lord, we shall walk in peace. I should also say that as we build from the bottom up in this one, we're going to add voices, so it's not that I say, okay, now tenors. Basses, keep singing, keep practicing. That's the beauty of this. Everybody can sing all the time, but just we're adding stuff. So, altos, your turn, but we're going to start from the soprano entrance. So the sopranos sing 3, 4, 1. Alto, tenor, bass, soprano, and we're going to stop there. Now, sopranos, I want you to practice it from the downbeat of measure 5, from Lord, we, and remember sopranos, there's a little lift, so we're going to sing Lord, we shall walk. Sopranos, 1, 2, 3. Lord, we shall walk exact same spot, add the altos. So measure 5, sopranos, and then altos joining on the second beat of the bar after they've taken that little lift. So, sopranos sing 3, 4, Lord, we shall. Same spot, tenors and basses join us. This is measure 5, the sopranos start, Lord, and then everybody comes in on. Okay, so measure 5, sopranos start, 2, 3, 4. If you recall, remember that the word peace, where we just stop, is going to be longer than a half. Let's think of it as a full half. So the tenors would sing, in peace we shall, and we'll have a new beginning. Great. The whole first page from the top. 2, 3, 4, 1. Alto. And you're breathing early, tenor, bass, great. Now let's go on and do the next page. Let's have just tenors and altos. I'm going to play it once just so it's in your mind. Stop there. So tenor and alto, right there. This is the top of page 3. It's the middle of measure 8. Top of the page 3, and it starts the middle of measure 8. We shall walk. Now, want to just mention one thing. The word shall, and this goes for everyone. We want to make sure that the vowel of shall is as long as possible. A quick little diction lesson. There are 2 types of consonants. There are voiced consonants and there are unvoiced consonants. Voiced consonants are those that you can sing, so that you can hum, that you can vibrate on. So for example, I can sing an M. I can sing an N. I can sing a V, or an L, or a Z. You can give them pitch. Unvoiced consonants are those that you cannot give voice to, or you cannot give pitch. Unvoiced. And those are ones like t, b, k, d. If I told you, sing a D, the consonant D on a pitch, you would go, d, d, there's no pitch to it. So it's an unvoiced consonant. When we have voiced consonants, those consonants that we can pitch, it's important that we elongate the vowel before it. And what I mean by that is, it's easy, and I'm going to use the tenor line as an example there. We shall, and we get stuck on the L. Think of that final consonant as being the first consonant of the next word. So think of it as we shall walk. We shall walk, so that we get vowel and pitch. And I'm just realizing those of you following along online on the screen probably can't see it because I wasn't moving it. My apologies. I'm looking at the screen and looking at my score at the same time. It's not easy. So, we shall walk. Right there, tenor alto, measure 8, half bar. And 1, 2. We shall walk through the valley. turn for me and turn the score for you, sorry. And this is from If Jesus, middle of 16, tenor alto. And let's do that much again, add the basses to it. And I apologize if I can't play and manage my screen at the same time. I'll try to do my best here. So this is measure 8, middle of the bar, and this is tenor and alto. This is the second to last thing we'll do. We'll add the sopranos in and then we'll move on from here. Ready? Is 1, 2. We shall walk through the Everybody, if you'll notice in measure 20, the downbeat, we all have a half note, and we have 3 different words on that half note. And the altos have to breathe every once in a while. So what we want to do is, tenors and altos, you're on the word us, which is the hardest word to cut off because a little s goes a long way. So everybody think of that as a dotted quarter with an 8th rest. So, us. Try that. I'm going to just give you an us, alto tenor, and you're going to go, us. Basses, you're on lead. Lead. Same thing. And with the us, it's lead. And sopranos have it the easiest because they're on leader. It's much easier to cut off a than a s or a d. So we'll make that cut off. Altos, there's no rush to take the breath to come back in. All right? We had the sopranos in, and so I didn't turn this page the way I'd hoped to. From the top of page 3. And 1 and 2. Turn the page. I got it all set up for you. And I got to turn again. My apologies. Breathe. Sorry, wrong note. I'm going to go back because I'm having trouble playing this while doing 2 things at once. Measure 16, the middle of the bar, on the words if Jesus himself. And I'm going to just stop also to say basses. When you sing if Jesus himself shall lead, sing shall, not shall, but shall lead. And you have 3 L's you've got to deal with. 2 in L in shall and 1 in lead. Think of it as just 1 L. Shall lead, if that makes sense. Everybody, middle of 16, if Jesus. So bass, tenor, alto, soprano. And 1, 2. etc. Good. Let's leave that for now and go on. My Spirit Sang All Day, the Gerald Finzi piece. And I'm a little behind in my schedule, which very quickly is just speak the text slowly in rhythm. I'm going to again share my screen. And I'm going to do it at about way under tempo. So we're going to do it about 1, 2, 3, 4. My spirit sang all day, oh my joy. About that tempo. Now, a word about speaking and rhythm. Speaking is a misleading term because when we're doing it in rhythm, we really want it to be sustained. And actually, what I would encourage you to do is sing it on a single pitch. So you're not thinking about the pitches, but for example, take a G and sing all on the same pitch. My spirit sang all day, oh my joy. That means that you're thinking a legato, you're singing through the vowels, and when we speak, we'll do my spirit sang, and we have lower energy, our breath isn't working, but we support the sound, we project it better when we sing. But just do it on a single pitch so that you're not worried about the correct notes, just the correct rhythms. So you can pick any pitch. I'm going to do it on an A. My spirit, 1, 2, 3. My spirit sang all day, oh my joy, nothing my tongue thing. I'm going to stop there because I should have said it's just sopranos and altos for measure 3 because the rhythm changes. Soprano, alto, measure 3, 2, 3, 4. Nothing my tongue could say, only my joy. Now, tenor bass from measure 3. And you have this great syncopation, so you do nothing my tongue. So on that pitch, 2, 3, 4. Nothing my tongue could say, only my joy. Now the beauty also of singing on one pitch is this is something you can do at home. And I encourage you all through the week to do this. You could choose any pitch. You can probably get all the rhythms, work on singing through the sound, get all the dynamics. Notice we start forte in measure 5. We're mezzo forte, so we're less. There's a crescendo to measure 6 forte, and then a big diminuendo to pianissimo by the end of measure 6, because the altos come in on a mezzo piano. My heart and echo court. So we need to. Those are all things we can do at home, even without a piano or anything. So everybody's speaking in rhythm from my spirit, and we'll pick a different pitch now. Let's do a B. My spirit in any octave you want. 1, 2, and my spirit sang all day. Oh my joy, nothing my tongue could say, only crescendo my joy. Going on, my heart and echo caught piano. Oh my joy, crescendo and spake, tell me thy thought, hide not thy joy. A few things to point out. Measure 9 on the word spake. Remember, we're making that a quarter note with a quarter rest. So if I were singing the tenor line from measure 8, oh my joy, and spake, tell. So spake, tell. That K goes right on the 4th beat there. Also, the next system down on the word thought in measure 11. So everybody's on the word thought. Again, make that a quarter note, quarter rest. So sopranos, you're already hanging out on that G sharp. Everybody else comes to tell me thy thought, hide. So the T goes on the quarter rest. Great. In the limited time we have left, I want you guys to all, and we will in sectionals do some note hammering out, woodshedding, so that everybody feels comfortable in their part. I've managed to slow down. I have a little MIDI file, and I've got it at a slower tempo now. Hopefully it's slow enough. And I want you guys to just sing that much on your own. We'll do it twice. And let me just share my screen here. I'm not sure I can do both. Let me, one moment. I think to play this audio and at the same time everybody see this. I'm gonna, as soon as I hit play, I'll remove the MIDI file thing, and then you should be able to see the score. You'll get a count off and I will conduct you. So 1, 2, 3. Great. I want to go back and do that one more time. And I'm going to try to slow the whole thing down even more. I think it's still a shade too fast for our purposes right now. Great. Let's try this one more time. The score was not in the right spot. One last time. Here we are. 2, breathe. Crescendo, diminuendo, alto. We will stop there. So next week we're going to start with a tenor sectional before our normal rehearsal time, and then in the following weeks we have other sectionals that will happen before, and we'll take some time to make sure we really pound out some of these notes and make this feel like something comfortable, so that when we do get to be together, this is very, very familiar. I'd like to now take a short break here for announcements. I believe Mary Ann and Terry Harmon have some announcements to make. Take it away.
Hi everybody, it's Terry Harmon, and I'm planting seeds tonight. The seed I'm planting is to talk about an auction that we're going to be having of goods and services. We're focusing on goods and services, and we're going to have a great time. So what does this mean to you? Think about an item or a service that you can donate. The auction will occur November 25th through December 5th. Details will follow watch your news of note, and stay tuned for more announcements in future weeks. Thank you.
Thank you, Terry. That was very quick. You're helping me get back on track. In fact, now I'm a minute ahead of time. Thank you. Now, unless there are other announcements that I'm not aware of, I want to turn it over.
Now it's my turn.
Oh, there you go.
Hi.
Phil.
Just a quick announcement. You probably saw in the slideshow before the session started that there's a special password that you should all remember, and I need to remember it myself. But here it is. Write it down and we'll give you access to the recorded videos that from this date forward will be under this password. And also there may be other materials that show up there also that again, you would need this password. And I believe that all of this will be under the members information file. So it's on the far right of our NCS page, and then it would be the second menu item down that is the fall 2020 information. With that, I'll hand it off to Penny.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm getting set up for screen share. So, can you see the screen? Yes?
Yes.
Okay, and you can hear me. All right. So it's quite an introduction. I have a lot to live up to from Ryan. So we shall begin. Okay, I'm supposed to be able, okay, I have to use my clicker, I guess. Okay, so concert programs and old CD covers and new MP3 spots. If Fare's Requiem is on the program or on a recording, oftentimes people choose to pair the Requiem with Impressionist paintings. And we know these names: Manet, Monet, Cezanne, Renoir, Seurat, and I might add Mary Cassatt, Bertha Morisot, and Suzanne Manet, wife of Edward. 'Tis true that Fare traveled in the same Parisian circles as these artists, and some he knew very well. There are qualities of lightness, openness of composition, colorful harmonies, and accentuation of the human experience that Fare's Requiem and much of his work share with these Impressionist artists. But usually it is the composers Ravel and Debussy who are most associated with the style in both art and music. Fare's work doesn't fit so neatly into this paradigm. So let's find out why. Fare worked on the Requiem much of his life. Although the first performance took place in 1887, Fare tinkered with the Requiem, adding movements such as the Libérame and extending the orchestration until the turn of the century. I think it is really interesting to consider the church where Fare premiered the Requiem in 1887. He was about 42 years old. The Church of the Madeleine is in the center of Paris. And at the time of the Requiem, Fare was music director of the church. He inherited the position from his teacher, Saint-Saëns. And we know that when Fare wrote the Requiem, he wasn't thinking of anyone in particular. His parents died during the early period he was working on it, but he himself says he wasn't necessarily thinking of them. It was a fairly happy time in Fare's life. He was recently married. He's working on the Requiem between the birth of two of his children. He was well settled in his career, and the funeral mass that he chose as master organist of this church to play was a state architect, somebody, I don't think Faure knew him personally, it was just part of his job as music director to play music for this architect's funeral. Yet the Church of the Madeleine, a high Catholic church, was originally built as a temple, and get this, to the glory of Napoleon's army. After Napoleon's defeat and the rise of a monarchy again, this temple was restored as a church. It sat high on a hill, its magnificence, with a brand new domed fresco depicting the life of Christ, was a symbol of political power until about 15 years before Faure inherited this position as music director and performed the Requiem. The commune executed both the curé of this church and the Archbishop of Paris. So think about when we visit New York City and go to the site of 9/11, how it casts this pall, even though it's rebuilt there, we can still feel the tragedy that happened. So Faure is presenting his Requiem. And 15 years earlier, if you were Catholic, the radical socialists on the left were trying to take down the hierarchy of the Catholic Church. So the building itself tells this tale of this divided and dangerous period in Parisian history. So nothing is, so also the art of the period and the music of the period also speaks of this divide. So we might even think about the divisions that we're feeling today in our society. Well, it's very similarly divisive in the 19th century in Paris. So these two paintings, the one on the left by Ingres, he's painting images in a very classical style that is, he's asserting the monarchy and the aristocracy. At the same time he is painting, we have Delacroix, who is a leftist thinker at the time. His painting is not classical at all. It's not symmetrical, it's not balanced, it has a lot of emotion and a lot of power, and it's called Liberty Leading the People. And we notice that the proletariat, the workers who are trying to get back some semblance of republic thinking and democracy, who were killed during this period of this raucous period of time. So Delacroix isn't even interested in specifically painting them. He's more interested in the emotion and the movement. And even those bodies spill out over the edge of the frame. And that's something that starts to happen more and more in art in the 19th century. I really want to just take a minute to talk about what do we mean by classical style in painting and in music. In both, so if you think about Haydn, Mozart, and even Beethoven, even, except for the very end of his life when he was really off the charts, classicizing music is very balanced. You begin with a theme, the music travels to interesting places in a development, and then the theme returns again in a recapitulation of the home key. So most classicizing music begins and ends with the same theme. In classical painting, we see it's very balanced. So I chose this painting because it's of a death, and we're thinking of Faure's Requiem. Faure would have known this painting. David was highly respected in Paris, and his paintings were exhibited everywhere. And you can see that even the poison that Socrates, the hemlock that he's about to drink, is centered right in the middle of the canvas. Even horizontally, the bed that Socrates is sitting on makes that horizontal line just about halfway through the painting. And last week, Ryan mentioned the idea of chiaroscuro, which is the play of opposites. And in this painting, you've got it all over the place. And that's what classical painting and classical music does. So we've got these figures who are mourning, Socrates' fellow philosophers, up at the front in the frame. And then on the left, we've got this very deep tunnel of the rest of the prison. And that opposition of near to far, balance right to left and up and down is quintessential classical style. And that's the style of painting that was primarily taught in the academies when Fauré went to school. So whether you were in an academy of music or an academy of art, that balance was thought to be what was good painting. And so starting about 20 years before Fauré was working on the Requiem, we start to see some artists being frustrated by the constriction of classical means. And so here's another burial. This is Courbet's about 20 years before Fauré's Requiem. And it's already very different from our Socrates painting, which is high style and going back to Greek and Roman myth. And this is, Courbet is from Ornon. It's just a small town in the suburbs of Paris, the countryside. The funeral's a real person. This funeral was his uncle's. He's no longer interested in painting the people at the funeral, his cousins and aunts and uncles, in a sculptural style. And in fact, you can barely distinguish one person from the other, although people have tried to do that. And notice it kind of bleeds over the edge of the image. He's no longer interested in the frame as the symmetrical composition. Well, this painting was very controversial. When Courbet painted it, he sent it to the salon. The French salon in Paris happened every year. It's the way you got your career made. If you were an artist, if you were a musician, you went too, because you wanted to see what was going on in the art world around you. And the salon accepted Courbet's funeral, but they skied it. And what that means is they would put the academics who really didn't like what Courbet was doing, hung his painting really, really high, hoping that most people wouldn't even notice it. So there we have a picture of Fauré when he was, he's probably about 25 years old in this picture. There were 2 academies of music in Paris at this time. And he was a kind of a prodigy, and his parents chose of the 2 academies. So the academies are pretty strict and conservative on what they thought would be good music. His parents chose the more conservative of the 2 conservatories. And the conservatory where Fauré studied music was dedicated to sacred music, music of the church, and music for the organ. And one of his teachers was nonetheless Camille Saint-Saëns. So Saint-Saëns took Fauré under his wing. When the commune was over, many people had scattered to avoid the bloodbath that took place in Paris in 1871. Supposedly more people died in the year of the Commune. It was a fight between the radical left and socialists and the aristocracy on the right. But more people died that year than in the all of the French Revolution. So Fauré did fight in the Franco-Prussian War just before the Commune, even though France lost big time. But when it was when this other takeover took place, many people scattered. When Fauré came back after the Commune and another republic was set up, Saint-Saëns took Fauré under his wing and introduced him to all of his musical friends, saying, look at this person. This is what up-and-coming music is going to be. And in that circle of Saint-Saëns' friends, who many of them we don't remember their names today, we wouldn't recognize them today. They turned out to be fairly conservative in their music writing. But one person was Pauline Viardot. And I thank Phil, there was a little bit of glitch in setting up her music at the beginning, But when you heard Cecile Bartali singing, she was singing one of two of the compositions that we heard by Pauline. And people are only remembering her work today. I was so surprised and so pleased. Ryan's going to be conducting one of her works in the spring for Longy, but she's totally just being rediscovered now. So she was a generation older than Faré. She was old enough to be his mother. And in fact, Faré became really close to being Pauline's son-in-law. And so I took a look at some of her music, thinking Faré went to her salons every single week and would have known all of her music and all of her friends' music. One of her best friends is George Sands, who believed that women should be able to wear pants. And, you know, Chopin was in that group, and many more left-leaning artists and musicians. And so she wrote a lot of beautiful, sacred music. She wrote a song cycle called The Life of Christ. And Faré would have known this. And I just want to read to you some of her, a few of her, the text that she set. Because even though Faré's Requiem was set in Latin, Faré actually dropped some words, and what his intention with his Requiem was to be more down to earth. And it matches what Pauline did in this text of the Cycle of Christ. So she's setting music in French, of course, but the translation is, beautiful angels descend from heaven with wings the color of the sun in dresses of strange light. They told me that in the heavens, God, on a throne of light, in a delicious day, reigned over the whole of nature. So we've got about 10 years before Faré is working on his Requiem. The Impressionist painters really broke away from the Academy, even though they all studied there and they're all trying to get their paintings in the exhibitions of the Salon at the time. So eventually their kind of painterly method of really not making figures or symmetrical space at all. In fact, to the critics at the time, they thought this was like child's drawings. So they started to refuse even accepting their paintings into the Academy. And the Impressionists that we know and love today, they had to set up their own exhibition art called the Salon des Refus. So it was very radical to be hanging out with Impressionists at the time. One of the Impressionist artists that Faré became very close friends with was John Singer Sargent. American, yes, but he went to Paris to study and stayed in Paris most of his life. And he drew Faré 4 times. And even in this portrait, if you step away, it would look like a very finished composition. But if you get up close, you can see how the paint just lays on the surface of the painting. And he's using Impressionist style. We still get this idea Faré is a very handsome man, and that he was very confident in his position as composer and head of music at the Church of the Madeleine. But Faré's hanging out with some people who are very scandalous painters. So Sargent almost lost his career with this painting in 1884. And again, Faré is starting to work on this Requiem. This is the wife of a banker. So she's a wife of the aristocracy, of the moneyed class in Paris at the time. But you would hardly know it to look at it. She's painted by Sargent more like a high-priced courtesan. And he almost didn't recover from the critical reviews of this work. So now we're getting closer and closer to Faré and his Requiem and his work at the Church of the Madeleine. Here's Manet, another funeral painting, because I'm specifically picking out funerals to think about the Requiem. And now you can see that all the painting just sits on the surface. Nothing's refined, nothing's sculptural. It's balanced, but it's not symmetrical at all. And we get this beautiful view, not of the severity of a funeral, but that it's one is part of nature, and the heavens are opening up at the top. So it's a more beautiful image of what is to come than would have ever been painted in a classical style. So what does this mean for our Fauré and Fauré's Requiem? Fauré stood amidst the political turmoil of France in the 19th century between moneyed and landed aristocrats and the working class, a time when the Catholic Church in Paris not only had inconsistent support, but at times it was fully dangerous to be there. When artists started to explore beyond the frame of the canvas to capture moments of time with flickers of paint, but the Paris salon still very much holding sway over artists' reputations, Fauré's somewhere in between, but also on the edge. He's really hard to place, but he's more interesting that way. Fauré creates a requiem that calls for peace for all. So it's really not a hierarchical requiem. It's not like Mozart's requiem that scares the hell out of us in his Dies Irae. It's not that, pitch between sinners and saints. Fauré even removed the word the faithful, the Catholic faithful, from his offertory, suggesting that anyone could share in a vision of eternal rest. No, you didn't just have to be a practicing Catholic to do so. He did not include most of the Dies Irae that always commands the wrath of sinners before God. He repeats the opening motif from the introit in the later Agnus Dei movement, but it's not at the end. It comes in the middle. So he's not balancing his musical composition the way Mozart would have, because it's just not a recapitulation. The final movement of the Requiem does not even come from the liturgy of the funeral mass, but of the burial. The Requiem is open-ended so as to create a vision for anyone choosing to be comforted by eternal rest and peace. During his lifetime, Fauré created larger and larger orchestrations of the Requiem, taking it out of the sacred space of the church and into the concert hall to be sung by choral societies that started to form the end of the 19th century in Paris and continuing now forever and always. Thank you so much for letting me have this opportunity to dig a little bit deeper into the Requiem and do what I love to do and think about art and culture of the time that great art and music is created. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Penny. Yes, you guys can applaud. Great. It's interesting to hear you talk about the artwork and this idea of the classical symmetry is no longer a thing, and the impressionistic painting where lines are blurred and from far away something might look clear, and as you get closer you see that it's almost an unfinished product. And there's so much in this Fauré Requiem like that. What I would call even as much as the original instrumentation, which I've mentioned before, doesn't involve any high woodwinds, any high strings. Everything is murky in a way. It reminds me of, yesterday morning, that fog. I don't know about you all, but I was driving my son to school and crossing over the Merrimack River, and I looked over, coming from Haverhill into Groveland, and looked over the Groveland Bridge and saw this mist coming out above the river, and everything was still, and that moment of peacefulness. And I even pulled off. I told my son, I said, Aiden, we have plenty of time. We're taking a little field trip. And we went down, pulled off the side of the road, we went down to the river. I had about 10 minutes to spare, a rarity for me that I'm early. And we sat there, and I just told him, I said, we're not going to talk. I want you to just look out there and think. And just to watch that mist come off of it made me think so much of some of those images that you showed us, Penny. So thanks so much for that. And the way the Requiem, as you mentioned, especially the Libera Me, which is the movement I want us to end our session today and take a quick look at. It's movement number 6, and I believe in your score it starts on page 34. As you mentioned, this is the spot in the traditional Requiem Mass where most composers put in this lengthy Dies Irae sequence, which is all about depicting hell and damnation, fire and brimstone. I mean, and you know, even Giuseppe Verdi, the great Italian opera composer, his massive monumental Requiem, he spends probably about 40 minutes of music just on the Dies Irae text. And it's all the moments about horror and fear and darkness, and Fauré completely cuts this part. Doesn't exist. Instead, he inserted this shorter liturgical text, which is the Liberame, and it's essentially a serious plea that says, "Deliver me from eternal death." And he starts it with the veiled, hushed piano tones of the baritone solo. And all you have underneath you is Liberame Domine de morte eterna. And that's almost, you can hear boom, 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 boom. It's the funereal drum. You can imagine a little tom-tom. Boom, 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 boom. In Fauré's orchestration, he gives that to staccato, the contrabass, the big bass, it's staccato cello, and timpani. And it's this sort of underlying, foreboding death drum. When the chorus finally comes in, which is in measure 37 at letter B, you know what? Before I forget, let me share my screen. At letter B, measure 36, and it's on page 36. So when the chorus finally comes in, we get this tremens, which the word literally means trembling. And there is a meekness, a reluctance, a hesitancy to come in. And basses, apropos of what I mentioned to you in our opening warm-up in tenors, the idea of how we have to use our falsetto. Basses, you come in on a high D. If you sang it in full voice, we'd probably get, even on me, we'd get a big vibrato, and it wouldn't be trembling. It would be something else. And this has to have this sense of fear in it. So we get, even at the bottom of the voice, it's almost head voice, almost tenor-like. The tenors, and there's almost this image again, back to this idea of the mist that I saw yesterday morning coming off of the Merrimack River, where there isn't any real definition. We have to be, as a chorus, absolutely together. But the result is something that is without rhythmic definition, and sometimes almost without a harmonic definition. And this builds itself up to, if you look, let me go back to the screen here. There's a big crescendo that happens here. I'm circling it. Discussio venerit, where there's a little bit of mention of wrath. And then, if you can see right here on your screen where it says HNS, horns, and we get this loud, the horns come barreling in, and they go, and then we get D-S-E, and that is the only real moment that Fauré mentions this day of judgment, the day of wrath. And this is, you know, a bona fide moment of intense fear. But it is incredibly short-lived. If you go on, we get all the way here at letter D, measure 70. We go back to the original text. Rest, O God, grant us rest eternal. And it's back to this back to this hushed moment, and it grows again, and we get in measure 76 into 77. If you notice, I talked last week about the idea of lux perpetua, light eternal. And it grows, the Domine grows, and then when we get to the Et Lux Perpetua, suddenly it drops out again to nothing. And we have these bare chords that lead us to the end of this section, only then to give way at letter F. Here it's measure 91 on the top of page 41, I believe it is. That when finally the whole choir sings what the baritone sang at the beginning. I feel like somehow this is like a funeral procession where everybody comes into focus at the end, and we're all here at the graveside. This almost gang vocalism that's hushed, and the amount of power there is in unison piano singing. And with our chorus, 120, 130 strong, the amount of intensity and power that can come in that many people singing softly is bone-chilling. So that we're going to leave tonight with playing of this, playing a recording of it, and if I had more time, we'd all take it apart and sing it. But we're going to start actually at letter B on the top of page 36. I'm going to play a recording of it to send us off into the evening. A few little quick notes as we end our session tonight. I just want to remind you all of the work that we can all do during the week, and that is, number one, sing every day. Use some of these vocal exercises we've worked on. Think about how you're breathing always, and remember these 3 words about breathing: silent, low, and slow. I'll say them again: silent, low, and slow. My voice teacher used to always say, Ryan, there's always time to breathe. Never take a rushed breath. Rushed breaths are usually high and frantic. Silent, low, and slow. You can practice your music on any pitch and on the rhythm. So you can go through all the repertoire that we've looked at so far, especially the We Shall Walk Through the Valley in Peace and My Spirit Sang All Day. And you can do that just on the rhythm and on one pitch and sing through it. I also just remind you that there are support resources out there, some websites like Cyberbase, which will play parts for you, so you can take time to sort of, as we say, woodshed the pieces on your own. And I know on our website there is a list of choral support choral support websites that can help you with the learning of music as well, so you can become more and more familiar with it. And 2 other final reminders. The first is that next week at 6:30 p.m. there'll be a tenor sectional. It'll be great to see you all, and hopefully I won't have to do as much screen sharing. I can look at your faces. And if section leaders, I would ask if you can let me check in with your section, your singers, and let me know where we are on having all of our music. That would be really helpful to know. I would love to be able to relieve myself of the burden of screen sharing the score, and I'd love for you all, more importantly, to be able to be marking in your scores. And the final little, I would say almost shameless plug is that I would love it if we could, I want to say is that Emmanuel Music, my other job, we are back to doing live cantatas on Sunday mornings. The church is operating at a 40% capacity in terms of occupancy, which means a lot of people can actually be in there given the size of the space. We're doing cantatas 1 on a part, socially distanced. We started last week, and what a treat and balm it was to finally make music in person. I invite you all to come, or they're also all being live streamed, and you can view them at a later date as well. They're all being live streamed on the Emmanuel Music website. So if you're dying to hear live music making, here is an opportunity. So thank you all. Many, many, many thanks to Penny Lazarus for your great presentation. Thanks to Phil and John Moreland and the whole Readiness Committee for all your work on this. And I would like to end our session today by playing for you the Liberame from the Fauré Requiem. And just give me a moment to cue it up in the right spot and share my screen. And I will also share it as such that we can see the entire, here we are, new share. I'm going to stop that share, excuse me, and do a new one of my entire desktop. Actually, sorry, bear with me. I'm just about there. Horns. Come along. Right. Funeral drum comes back. Hushed. Baritone solo. Choir comes in. Have a wonderful week, everybody. Good night.